big forces that are shaping that, and are certainly going to shape the HR agenda that I think about, certainly as I look at where our business is going to go. Remember I said our business is going to move from about 57% in the developing and emerging markets to probably close to 70% by 2020. So 4 big trends. The world's moving east and south. People are going to live differently. The environment is under stress. Okay, and the digital revolution, what impact that's going to have on the way in which we work. So let me unpack each one of those. So I think we've got to get ready again for the next Asian push, if you like, or the Asian century, as power certainly moves east and south, both economic power, lots to do with numbers, another 1 billion people coming onto the planet, virtually all of them in the east and the south of the world, but certainly you're starting to see this start to shift. Today, if you look at the statistics, Asia has 60% of the world's population, 28% of the income. 200 years ago, it had 60% of the world's income. Okay, and I'm sure history will repeat itself on this. So the world is inextricably shifting at the moment, east and south. China in particular, if you start to look at their ambition, and this really reads like a very well thought through strategy, and they seem to be very clearly focused about what they want to do. If you just look at the contribution they expect from science and technology in the country's development to lift from 40 to 60%. Lower reliance therefore on foreign technology. Be ranked amongst the top 5 markets in the terms of the number of patents agreed. I think today if you add up patents coming out of India and out of China, it's already greater than the US at the moment. Build 50 Silicon Valleys. Okay? The Silicon Valleys that are taking place there already are quite awe-inspiring to go and have a look at. And build eco-cities and green energy countries. So clearly on the move and clearly very fast in terms of the direction in which they're going. There are 500 middle-class people alone in China when you look at it today. If you go forward to 2020, half the world's middle class will be in Asia. Okay, and by 2030, it'll be 2/3. If you go into Latin America already and you have a look at its population, already half the population is felt to be middle class. Now, these are all citizens or consumers that we would look at them that are upwardly mobile, that are starting to consume and start to have big aspirations in terms of where they're going. So this drives the economic shift, if you like, to where the world is going to go. 400 largely unknown cities today in emerging markets will generate 40% of the global growth over the next 15 years. It's very interesting as you think about setting up businesses and running them globally. There are companies, I think, that will set up businesses around mega cities only. And all they'll worry about is dominating mega cities in the world as you look at it. 12 of the 13 mega cities will only emerge over the next 10 to 15 years. Africa's got potentially 8 mega cities that have been identified now. Johannesburg, Pretoria, for example. If you take Lagos, it's quite a stunning example of Lagos. 1950, population 300,000. 2007, 15 million. 2020, 25 million. Okay, you're talking about mega cities. Khartoum, Kinshasa, Accra. These will be the mega cities of the future that we'll have to deal with here in Africa as we start to look forward as we go on. So what does that mean for us as HR folk? And these are the questions that I'm wrestling with at the moment. The first thing is, do we really understand the differences in leadership styles between the East and the South versus our typical Western mindset about how we run them? The way in which I've led all my life, for example, will that be the right way to be able to lead businesses that are 70% built in the D&E markets? Will there be different characteristics we'll have to have? Where will we find the people to run these businesses with the quality and the quantity of talent? If I give you one example, if we look at our Indonesian business is doubling every couple of years. Okay, it probably sells already about 1 million tons worth of product a year. And you start to say, if you're going to double again and sell 2 million in the next 3 years and 3 million in a couple of years after that, what does the supply chain director look like that's going to be able to run a supply chain that has to generate that sort of stuff? Where is he today, and how are we building him to have the capacity in order to do that? How do we attract talent in the East and the South? Is it the same way we've always traditionally done it? We have to think about very different ways in which we need to go about that. How do we strengthen cultural sensitivity? I think one of the greatest leadership skills we'll need going forward is this ability to be very sensitive to cultures. Now, as we move people around the world, how easy do they adapt to very different cultures and to lock in what people are going to do? And then how do we meet the aspirations of an increasingly mobile workforce? Now, people really do want to move around and shift around on short-term assignments, etc. They challenge all the traditional ways in which we've run HR to date. The second area to look at is how people will live. Okay, and they're certainly going to live a lot differently. Another 1 billion people will come to the planet in the next 8 years, and mostly, probably 96, 97% of that in the developing and emerging world. Okay, so it's going to fuel, if you like, a lot of the shift that we're starting to see there. Housing and urbanization is going to be a mega issue. You'll have well over 4 billion people living in urban areas. Slums will become mankind's primary habitat. You'll have about 1.5 billion people living in slums. And if you look at the rate of development, you can see the statistic there. It's the size of the city of London developing every 40 days for the next 10 years. That's the population growth that you're going to start coming through here. And so it really is going to be a very urban-driven society in many ways. And with that urban-driven, you really get all sorts of other issues that then accompany it, all the social issues that accompany it, living issues that accompany it, sanitation issues, et cetera, et cetera. And as I say, Africa will not be immune from this. The African numbers will be over 50% as well, living in urban areas. So we have a big urban drive that we'll have to be able to have a look at. The third very interesting statistic is certainly women are going to be critically important, I think, in the next 10 years. Okay? And you can see the stats here. By 2020, another 870 million women in the workforce, and just about all of them in the developing and emerging market. 822 million in the developing and emerging market. At the moment, if you go to universities, when we recruit at the moment, we're recruiting 55% female, 45% male at the moment. And those are the numbers that are coming out of universities. I don't know what the males are doing now, okay, but they certainly ain't graduating from universities now. And the women are knocking their socks off in terms of qualifications, aspirations, aptitude, and everything else that goes with it. Okay? Very interesting for me, as you look at the leadership styles that we'll need in 2020, the cultural sensitivity quotient, if you think about that, I think the types of leaders we're going to need in order to co-create, to partner, to reach across divides, to be able to have the sensitivity, to be able to be inclusive, to drive diversity, are built into women's DNAs. And I think they're going to be far more powerful, far more successful leaders in the future than they are today.